Alright, there's actually been a surprising amount of Palworld TCG news over the last week. We've got more Donna Palpagos supposedly on the way, an actual second edition of the set being planned, 2 completely new trial decks, more competitive events starting up, and we're finally starting to get an idea of what the early meta of this game actually looks like. So instead of just making like 4 separate 2-minute videos, let's just go through everything that's happened in the past week. And I think we have to start with the thing basically everybody's been complaining about since launch. The Donna Palpagos is getting more stock, allegedly. You might actually be able to buy Palworld cards pretty soon. Bushiroad put out another statement about the Donna Palpagos shortage, and this one actually gave us some new information. They apologized again for how hard it's been to find product and said that additional stock is already on the way. But more importantly, they also confirmed that they're currently planning a second edition print run of Donna Palpagos. And those are actually 2 separate things. So the wording is specifically that additional stock is already on the way while a second edition is still being planned. So we should hopefully see more product hitting stores before the actual second edition even comes out. Now, will those be error boxes? Who's to say? They haven't given us a date or quantity for either one yet, so I wouldn't go canceling your plans and camping outside your LGS just yet. But this is probably the best news we've gotten about the supply problem since the game launched. And personally, I think they've got to do something about this, because if Pokemon's going to move back to print to order, where do you think all those scalpers are going to go? And this stuff is still stupidly hard to find in some places. I know it's pretty much impossible now. Even the tournament shops that I went to last weekend are running out of product to give to players when they win, and instead of packs, they're giving out store credit. And the secondary market has responded exactly how you'd expect when you combine a brand new TCG with a limited supply and a bunch of people realizing there's money to be made. Not very well. So I want to talk about what second edition actually even means, and this is where things get interesting because we don't actually know yet. Bushiroad has not said whether the cards themselves will have a first or second edition marking. I know for sure in this first run they don't have any sort of markings other than on the booster box itself. They haven't announced different pull rates, they haven't announced a different card list, and they haven't told us how easy it'll be to distinguish those loose first print cards from the second edition cards, if we'll even be able to differentiate between them at all. So if you've seen somebody confidently telling you those first edition Donna Palpagos cards are about to become insanely valuable because they're officially different, I don't know, we don't know that yet. But there is one hilarious difference we already know is coming though. The original Donna Palpagos packaging famously says Palword. That's the whole inspiration for the channel name, Palword Tyson, because apparently the rarest pal of all was just the missing L. But Bushiroad previously acknowledged the typo and said it'd be corrected in future printings. We know that already. So unless something changes, the original misspelled packaging should at least be pretty easy to distinguish from the corrected future printing. Whether the collectors eventually care about that, I have absolutely no idea. I'm not Rudy from Alpha Investments, but personally, I just want people to be able to walk into a card shop and buy the game without having to refinance their house. Next up, you guys probably already know this, but Bushiroad officially announced the 2 more Palworld trial decks. So they're both called Eternal Ascent, and they're releasing December 18th. So we've got red and green, and blue and purple. And I think the color combinations are actually the most interesting part here. So because our original trial decks give us red and blue and green and purple, they're actually mixing those colors now again and giving new players completely different starting points. So each one comes with a 50 card main deck, 10 card soul deck, the play guide, paper mat, counters, everything you need to actually play. I'm assuming they'll also have a pack included in the boxes as well, unless they got super greedy. But there's also supposed to be a parallel card included in each deck, which apparently can either be a trial deck super rare or the trial deck super parallel rare, replacing the normal version. You know I'm still chasing that Grisbolt from the first starter deck. So we don't actually have the full card list yet, which is what I really want to see, because this is going to set the tone for what we'll probably expect to see in Booster Box 2. Because the question isn't just whether these decks are good out of the box, it's what exclusive cards are hiding inside them that you can only get in the starter decks themselves. And if you've been playing since launch, you already know that some cards from the original trial decks are legitimately useful upgrades for constructed decks. So depending on what's exclusive to these, December might have us all buying another 2 copies of every structure deck like idiots, and I'm absolutely going to be one of them, at least if I can get my hands on one. The other thing I think is getting overlooked is how quickly organized play is starting to ramp up. We've basically spent the first few weeks of the game throwing decks together and arguing online about what's good, and now we're finally actually getting tournament results. So Bushiroad's event page currently has the Challengers Cup starting in September, followed by the Masters League, and that's going to begin in November. So according to Bushiroad, that Masters League is a part of the road towards crowning the first Palworld official card game world championship. You know, I'm throwing my hat in the ring. And it's kind of weird though, considering this game has existed for like 5 minutes, but it is sick that we are getting official tournament support through Bushiroad. Japan also announced its own Master Series on August 17th, so we're starting to see the competitive infrastructure actually come online instead of just hearing promises about it. We're already getting some early tournament deck lists, and there were undefeated lists published from the Osaka Grand Release event earlier this month, followed by undefeated recipes from the Tokyo event held August 15th. Now, I would still be really careful calling anything a definitive tier list right now because we're working with an incredibly young game, 1 booster set with 100 cards in it, 2 trial decks, pretty small events, all things considered, and incomplete tournament data. But we are starting to see some patterns. And this might be my favorite piece of early meta information. Interrupts are becoming extremely popular. Palset looked at more than 1,000 complete public deck lists created on Palworld TCG.gg during August, and at launch, the average deck in their sample was running about 5 interrupt style cards. So apparently after 3 weeks of Palworld TCG, the community has collectively decided, nah, you don't get to do that. And I know that for a fact because most of the opponents I played in my IRL tournament last weekend were running 10 to 12 minimum. So it's interesting to me why they limited the number of Lucky Pals, but not the number of interrupts. Could you imagine trying to play against like a full interrupt deck that's just getting in for 1 or 2 damage every turn? But obviously these are public deck lists, not win rate data, and that distinction is important. This doesn't really prove that the interrupt heavy decks are winning every tournament. Kind of feels like it though, but it does tell us what other people are building, and it shows us how quickly deck construction's changing. And honestly, that's one of the things I've enjoyed the most about playing the game this early. We don't have years of solved deck lists and archetypes. People are still figuring out what's actually good, and cards that looked mediocre 2 weeks ago suddenly show up everywhere because somebody figured out how annoying they can be. Shout out to the wooden wall. But by the time we actually get a large amount of competitive tournament data, the meta could look completely different again, especially because Set 2 is only about 2 months away, so we're already getting dangerously close to the next wave of products. On October 2nd, we're going to get the Sleeve and Card Set Volume 1, and this isn't just the sleeves, you're going to get 5 different card types, 10 cards total, and Bushiroad specifically says that those cards are unique to this product. And they can also apparently be replaced with parallel versions, which is pretty sweet, so it kind of incentivizes you to buy more. But I don't think we need that incentivization at this point. But yeah, as of right now, we've got DLC cardboard. It's 2026, baby. Of course, those cards might be reprinted or redistributed later according to Bushiroad, but at launch, this is where they're going to be coming from. And then on October 30th, we get our second full booster set, Legends Awaken. You guys know it, you guys love it, everyone's talking about it. And the current list is about 100 card types plus parallels and the alternate versions featuring all 5 colors. I'm counting colorless here, and Bushiroad has specifically teased legendary pals appearing with some new illustrations, so that's going to be pretty sick. After that, of course, those Eternal Ascent decks drop, and after that, another booster set's already scheduled for January 29th of 2027. We don't even have a name for that one yet, but I'm sure it's already sold out everywhere if pre-orders are available. So the current schedule basically looks like July is Dawn of Palpagos, October, the accessory set and Legends Awaken, December's 2 new trial decks, January set 3, they're not exactly taking their time, but honestly, the thing I'm happiest about here isn't another booster set or even the new deck announcements. It's the reprint. I've been having an absolute blast with the game, but none of that matters if new players literally can't buy the cards. I've had to play against people running proxies because they couldn't even get their hands on a trial deck. They're just trying to cobble together cards that they picked up from their friends or from other players at local game stores when they happen to go. So I don't care if my Dawn of Palpagos cards are worth slightly less because somebody can walk into a store and buy a booster box for a normal price. I'd rather have more people actually playing the game and keeping it alive. And between more first set stock coming, a second edition being planned, new trial decks, Challenger Cups, Masters League, and another booster set in October, it looks like Bushiroad is at least planning on hitting this thing pretty hard. So now we just need them to print enough cards for people to actually participate. But apparently, this is the difficult part. So anyway, if I missed anything from this week, throw it in the comments because this game is moving so stupidly fast right now that I can't keep up with a real job. And anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one.